The second time that they built a new Rosita, for a reason, she was very fluffy, and she got bigger suddenly. If you see the old episodes, she was very, very small, and now she's just like all nice and fluffy.
Welcome back to Puppeteers. We're your hosts, Adam Kreutinger
and Cameron Garrity.
And today we have Carmen Osbahr on the show. Welcome to the show, Carmen.
Oh, welcome to La Casa de Carmen. Oh, hi, everybody at Puppeteers.
Well, for those who don't know, Carmen has been a performer on Sesame Street for over 30 years now. Got her start working on Plaza Sesame, and is sort of best known for working and performing the character Rosita on Sesame Street, but has also done other shows like Johnny and the Sprites and The Puzzle Place, and we're so glad to have her here as we celebrate Sesame's 50th season. So, Carmen Osbahr, welcome to Puppeteers.
Thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure to be here finally.
Yes. Yeah. We've been trying to nail you down for a while now. But, man, I'm really excited to have you.
Yeah.
So I know there's been a lot going on, but can you tell us anything that you're working on now?
Well, right now, actually, we are in the middle of PR of season 50th. So we've been doing some stuff. We've been invited to some shows like the Tonight Show, and we're kind of divided, and some people are doing some interviews, others we're doing other ones, and I'm going to Miami next week, and we just finished actually something incredible. I mean, we just performed at the Rose Hall at the Lincoln Center with the jazz band with Wynton Marsalis, so 3 shows. And it was just, we were celebrating 50th years, but of music. And Wynton wanted it to arrange with his band some songs that they liked since they ware little. And, it was just amazing, truly amazing. It's scary, very scary, because I'm old. And the stage is really big, and we were rolling in and rolling out, and we were exposed, so people saw how we worked. But everything worked out well. I'm just, even my hair hurt. And lots of puppeteers, too.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it.
Now, you mentioned it was a lot of rolling around and stuff, because you were all performing sort of on the ground right in front of the band, right? And so that just had to be, I mean, you're on rollies a lot on Sesame Street as well, but there's something different about the live element and stuff. Can you talk about some of the more difficult choreography or things that you guys did?
Well, we tried to, for this show, we kept it, kind of simple. We didn't, because we did some fun stuff, especially with Grover. And also in a beautiful, in a song that Ernie sings, and he appear in the background. They have to dress really quick in blacks, and he appear in the moon. You know which song I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And so, but yes, we were in rollies, and when we work on Sesame Street, because we have humans, and they're walking around and you're acting, you need to be proportional size. So we need to be rolling. We have actually, you know what? I have a rollie here. Well,
wait. So do you have to supply your own rollie when you go to these things?
No. Oh, okay. But you know what? Tyler Bunch was so kind, and I was so concerned about the rolling around on stage that I wanted it a smooth rollie, because my knees are not doing very well. And Tyler has the best equipment ever. So he has these rollies that he got when they were doing the Muppet show on NBC last time that they were doing the show. They got these incredible rollies that the cameraman used, that they're so smooth, and just with a little push you move. And then I called Tyler and was like, can I use your rollie, because I'm going to be in trouble. So he let me use his rollie. Then at the end, I didn't use it because the little pillow that has in the top is really small, and I don't know what happened, but I think my butt got bigger than the pillow, and I was falling off. So I used a better one. But anyway, they're little circles with 6 wheels or 8 wheels. And so we push ourselves as we, as we perform and walk and do everything. So for the Lincoln Center, we did that. We decided to just come into the stage just in blacks and with our puppets above our heads, and like we do on Sesame Street. And we thought, well, I hope that people focus on the puppets, not on us. Yeah. But the stage is really big, and sometimes we have to run backstage and grab another rollie on the other side and run in. But it was exciting. It's always exciting and fun. I have to say, Ryan Dillon was amazing because he had to do all that, and he was able to go between the bands with Elmo and get into. Wynton Marsalis sits down in the back of the band because he suffers vertigo, so he was not right in the front. So Ryan had to go so many times rolling around behind the band and then come back in the center. And every time he made it on time. I was really impressed.
He's a pro.
He's pretty good. Yeah, he's okay. He's okay.
He's amazing.
He is amazing, of course. Yeah.
You have to hear the notes that he really let his voice go all the way to heaven and back. Really, he was amazing. I mean, everybody was amazing, but I'm very proud of Ryan.
Oh, yeah. And I love, they've been pumping out so much more content recently on their own thing, on the Dylan Gales, and it's so impressive, too. It's like, it's not a little, quick little for fun thing. It's definitely really well produced. It's so amazing. I love watching it and showing it to people. So, yeah.
I know, me too. He makes me laugh every time.
Yeah. I had one other question about, because not only did you do this this most recent Sesame Street performance, but I know you also worked on the Muppet Show live shows as well. And what I'm wondering about that is, like, you've got sort of two audiences in that, because you're performing to the crowd, but I know you are also performing to monitors, like you're using that reference still. So is it difficult to kind of perform wide and make sure you're performing to the room, where you might want to use larger gestures and stuff, but also still keep it looking good on the monitor?
Yeah, for the Muppet Live, it was obviously and there were huge stadiums. I mean, we were at the Hollywood Bowl, that is very big, and we had big screens in the side. So in a way, because the stage was so big, the people were looking at the screens. Obviously, they look how we work, but I think they managed to watch the screens more. And in London, and the O2 was humongous too. There were huge screens. So in a way, we perform like we do it on TV. I mean, a little bit more, I guess, exaggerated, but not a lot. For the Lincoln Center, there were no screens. So in a way, actually, that was one of our questions. Who do we play for? I mean, should we play for our, because we were seeing what we're doing, but we had the audience so close and so intimate that a few times I kind of forgot that I was watching my monitor, because, you can see the faces, and it's so amazing. I never, in these big shows, like you said, in London and the Hollywood Bowl, yes, you see faces, but you see like, blah, like,
right.
Like,
just
oh my
a sea
God,
of people.
how do I look? And in these ones, you can see, you can, you almost touch them. So, I kind of forgot a few times. I was doing a song, The People in Your Neighborhood, and I had an intimate moment with the audience, and I completely forgot to look at the monitor because I was asking questions. So I also physically have to see the audience. So it was a little bit more, not exaggerated, but, they're right there. So you can,
right.
I feel like it's probably more so just a lot more you have to pay attention to, because you probably shouldn't change too much of what you do anyway. Because even thinking on stage, you don't always. Well, I guess you do exaggerate things a little bit, but not like to a comical.
Right.
Yeah. So
no, yeah, you don't. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. But I have to say, when the Muppet Show was so amazing to be there, and the audience in both, Muppets and Sesame Street, you can see that they were enjoying themselves. It was wonderful to hear them laughing and getting the jokes, or just laughing to see the character with the Muppets. And this past weekend, what it was amazing was to walk through the audience. Our last song was Sing, and we sang kind of like Avenue Q style. That was the only song that we came out, standing up. And then we walk at the end, in the la-las, we walk out to the audience. And it was great to see people, because I saw people from all generations. I saw an older man, probably, I don't know, like 80 years old, bowling. I mean, for me, it was like, oh my God, I hope it's not my singing. But, yeah, and other man with tears, it was really, really touching to see and feel the love of everybody. So it was really rewarding. All that physical work. Oof, everybody keep asking all of us, are you guys okay? Because we were so red. Well, we were running. It was like a big workout, but it was worth it every second.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, would love to go back and sort of hear about your origins a little bit. When did you first find puppetry?
Oh, God. In kindergarten.
Okay.
But listen, not like my colleague. I mean, Peter Linz and Matt Vogel were born with a puppet in their hands. See, they knew exactly what they wanted to be. I didn't. I just, now probably looking back, I know that it fascinated me in so many ways. But I remember in kindergarten, every 2 Fridays, the teachers put like a little puppet show. And I was the first one in line, ready to see that. And also, I'm from Mexico City, so I kind of watch different things on TV than you guys.
Yeah.
And when I was probably 5 or 6, there was this very famous little mouse called Topo Gigio. I think Topo Gigio came here in the 60s with in the Ed Sullivan's show, right?
Right.
So Topo Gigio, for the people that they don't know, it was like just the most amazing mouse ever. Cute, really cute. Oh, chubby, little belly. Oh, and they had this show that it was an older man in the puppet, the Topo Gigio. And he walked all over him, and they had conversations at the end of the day of how was his day and all the adventures that he used to tell that were just amazing. And at the end of the 15, 20-minute show, he used to put him in bed and cover him. And for me, like a little girl seeing the little bed and the little covers, it just amazed me. So I was introduced to puppets through those two. And then I remember perfectly, I think it was 1970. I was not a little girl, but I was still a girl. Plaza Sesame. There was all this publicity about this children's show, co-produced by Sesame Workshop and Televisa, that is like the big TV station in Mexico. And actually, I went to friends to watch the show together, and it just blew our minds. We remember all the songs. We remember, all the characters. We loved it. But I really never, ever thought that I will be doing this for my whole life.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, I actually was introduced as a profession because, like I said, I was always interested in to know how did that work. My question was like, how? I mean, I had no idea. So my brother came to the United States and found this book that is called The Muppet and Man. Have you ever seen that book?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right over there.
Yeah.
That was the first time that I saw the guys, that I saw the face of Jim Henson. Of course, I knew the name, But in Mexico, we didn't have the late shows to see him performing with Kermit, him and Kermit. I never saw his face. So that was my introduction to them. And then I thought, oh my God, do they have the arm up above their, they're little. I thought they were big. I was amazed. And my brother said, hey, listen, you work in television. So he said they have scripts, puppets, and everything for children's shows, but we don't have puppeteers. And they hiring these Americans to come and train people, but first they need to interview people that they have background in music or dancing, and do you want to come and bring some friends? And I'm like, I don't have background of acting or anything, but I train sports every day. I train volleyball, so I was really fit, not like right now, but in those days I was really strong. And I play music all my life. I had a group. We play guitar and sang. So I thought, maybe I'll go. And I brought some friends. The problem was the language, right? I still don't speak English. I think I do, but I don't, as you can hear. But in those days, it was zero. So I went to the interview. We all went. And the only one that it was called back was me. So I went for 2 weeks of workshop with these people that I tried to remember their names. And I feel terrible, but I don't. It's like 40 years ago. So I have no idea, but thank you. I have to tell you that it was the most, I think, so scary because I walk into an atmosphere with everybody else. I was, first of all, the youngest one. I was finishing high school. I think I finished high school at that point, and we were in summer break. And everybody was an actor. You know, there were students from drama, and they were really well prepared, and they really wanted the job because it was the introduction to a TV station that they were able to work in soap opera. So I don't know, and more stuff. I just want to be there because I love puppets. I was curious. I just wanted to know how that worked. And in all the exercise of improvisation and in physical work, I was so shy. Everybody was so good. And I was like, oh God. So I started right away saying that it was not something for me, but I really want to give it the whole me. It's like, if I'm going to go, I just want to try my best. And your question is like, how I was introduced to puppetry. It was this day that it was between I was not going to do it anymore or I was going to do it. And because they already told me, listen, I don't think you got it. And I'm like, I totally understand, but it's like, let's try one more time because we can see that you've been progressing, but let's just try. So they gave me this cow. There was this show called El Tesoro del Saber, that it means the treasure of knowledge. And it was a farm. It was, they had a cow and a donkey and all these animals. And there was a grandfather that it was a human and his granddaughter. And actually it was a lovely show. But they gave me the cow, to do this song. And the cow was so heavy, had a bell and everything. And they played this song that I knew, and I was following the lip sync, and I thought, okay, this is it. And as I'm doing and following the lip sync of this cow, I remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. I mean, if I move my hand like this and I move this way, or if I close to the camera, and all these things start clicking in my head, and I start doing them as I was doing it. And I was actually shocked that I did such a good job. And that kind of, performance was the one that got me into the team of puppeteers for the shows. The Americans were so sweet. They left me as a captain puppeteer. I had no idea what I was doing. But that was mainly my introduction to, I started working in 2 TV shows in Mexico, The Treasure of Knowledge, and one that it was live every night. It was a different game show. So, that was before Plaza Sesame also. Wow. I caught a lot of air.
Yeah. Holy cow.
but I never thought that it will be so. I remember that cow as a love, because it was the connection between the illusion that I didn't get it for 2 weeks doing the workshop, but in that moment I really got it. And I think since that time it's been wonderful, because I keep learning. It's not something that I think that I know already. I keep learning and finding things to do, and I love it. I'm so glad that happens.
Were some of the performers that you got to know through that experience, did that kind of become a new cohort in Mexico where you were, of like sort of, you were creating your own group of 5 or 6 puppeteers who, like, you all kind of came up together and then would go on to do different projects?
Yes. It's so interesting that you asked that, because yes, we were 5. The sad part is, like I told you at the beginning, they came, they trained us, and they left. So they left us with not a lot of knowledge. The sets were built. We were not involved in building the sets. We didn't know what to tell the cameraman because we didn't know anything. And it was kind of hard. It was physically very demanding. And half of us, we wanted it to be there because of the love of puppetry, and the other half just wanted it to move into soap operas, acting, other stuff. So, another thing that I forgot to tell you is that we didn't do the voices of our characters, and that was a nightmare, because the television station demanded celebrity voices, and in Mexico, most of all the TV shows are dubbed, the American ones, they're dubbed in Spanish, so they have this beautiful group of voiceover people. But can you imagine, every single thing you do, you have to match your person, and it was the most difficult thing ever. When we were doing the Treasure of Knowledge, it was easier because, you have the script, and, we were able to do the lines correctly. But in my live show every night, the beginning, it was like a radio booth, and there was the radio conductor, how you call it, the radio guest. And my puppet was the main character. The name was Chasco. And we had a little written script. But after that, when we were out to the game show and there were celebrities coming, it was up to the voiceover and me knowing our cues and our timings of when to start. But it was like, I don't know when it's going to come out of his mouth. So it was really hard. And it was really hard for us, more that we learned as we were going, to communicate that to the producers and to the directors, like, can you help us? They didn't care. It was really hard to work there in that matter. Actually, when I heard that Kermit Love was going, it was in 1982, 81, he went, it was 1982, he went to Mexico to audition puppeteers for Plaza Sesame. And I was so excited to meet him because I really wanted to ask him, how do you do this? How do you make everybody work with you so the characters look better? And, this is just not good. So our group of puppeteers change all the time. I think I was the only constant one because I was the only one that I believe in what I was doing. So actually, that was the thing that it made me fall in love with a group of people here. When I came and I observed Jim Henson and Frank Oz the first time, and I saw them working together, having fun together, and also the camera and the director and everybody's so like, in tune. I thought, oh my God, this is heaven. Yeah, what am I doing in Mexico? Nobody pays attention to me. I want to stay.
Well, and it's so difficult because puppetry, it's it needs to be collaborative, and you need to be working alongside all those technicians because otherwise you are just so isolated, and that had to be really difficult.
Yeah. It is really isolated and difficult, and And thank God of Kermit visiting, Mexico and auditioning puppeteers. That time, unfortunately, it was funny because I went to the audition. I was the first one in line. I'm like, and he's like, oh, we just have, Abelardo, that is like the big bird in Mexico. It's a beautiful parrot, very colorful and it's gorgeous. And a grouch. So they didn't have at that time, they didn't have more characters. But at the same time, he came to my set and he saw all the puppets, and then he came to the live show at night and he was like, I don't know how you do this. So that's when he told me, you know what, we're going to start the season. I think they were starting season 18 on Sesame Street. And he said, we're going to start the season soon. Why don't you come and see how it works so you can, do something here? And I'm like, yes. So I came to observe the, and see the sets and everything and the rollies and all the things that they had that they make it work so well. But then I just didn't want to come back.
Well, why not? Oh, you didn't want to go back to
Mexico.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying you didn't want to come back to America. I was
no, sorry, it was me.
No,
I didn't
that's
want
okay.
to come back. I didn't want to go back to Mexico because I thought,
Sure.
oh my God, everybody speaks my language here, and I, I was observing and I was learning every day so many things and how the puppeteers work together and have fun together, and actually to see, especially, I mean, all of them, but Richard, it was so magical to see all the guys performing for each other. Everybody was trying to make everybody laugh.
Mm-hmm.
and while they were doing the scene, and before the scene, to see John Stone, when they were reading the script together, they always found little things to do even better. The scripts, obviously, the writing in the shows are amazing. But they always found funny little things to add, and just to see that, like you were saying, the teamwork.
Yeah. So when you saw this teamwork and all this collaboration, and it was inspiring to you, and you wanted to be a part of it, when you did become a part of it, was it as good as you thought? Because I imagine having the language barrier, even though seeing it all so cohesive, shoving yourself in there, or rather you becoming a part of it, and not knowing the language may have been, I could see, it's hard to even imagine what would be better. Like people that maybe have less passion, but you can all communicate really easily versus people that that you can't communicate with. Obviously you want to go with the passion for sure, but still, it still must have been what a difficult thing to do.
Yes, absolutely right. It was, and it's still really difficult because I still, I think after 30 years, believe it or not, and I'm married an Englishman, and my son speaks better, English than Spanish. I still don't fully understand the language, and I still have fully my Mexican culture, because I was born and raised there for 27 years of my life. It was really hard. It was really hard. And also, it was hard because, I get emotional because Jim passed away. Sorry. And I miss him so much. He passed away in 1990, and he hired me in 89. So let me drink some coffee. So when he passed away, before that, we were talking about the character, and all the things that he wanted it for the character. So sadly, he never saw the character fully develop. So when we developed Rosita, I kind of started it all by myself. And I remember a day we were doing a home video, and it was the bunny picnic, something like that. And I remember there was 3 days, and obviously, you know what, they wanted to help me, and they wanted it to give me more things to do. And most of the the puppeteers, when we start, they put you doing right hands and incidental characters and puppets in the background. And I was fine with the puppeteering because, like I told you, I had so many hours of like, you know, doing it that I was good with the monitor. I was good with lip sync and everything, but it was panicking for me to speak because, first of all, I never used my voice. And second of all, it was not my language. Mm-hmm. So it was so hard. I was not shy, but it was hard because I was so insecure. So in Bonnie Picnic, that is not Sesame Street, but it was just before, I remember that it was so hard. They gave me a main character. And I remember in the last day of work at lunchtime, I remember just thinking, Jim just passed away. I'm doing this and I don't know what am I doing here. I miss Mexico. I miss my family. I miss everybody. I'm just going to go home. And Kevin Clash happened to pass around and he was like, what's going on with you, lady? And I'm like, oh, well, you know, I don't know what I'm doing here and I'm going home. And he's like, you are not. You have to stay. You cannot go back like this. And he said, I know Jim passed away, but don't worry, I'm here and I will take care of you and we will work it out together. So actually, since that day, Kevin actually was my mentor. You know, he really took me under his wing, and it was hard because he demands perfection and he demanded perfection, but I tried. And also the group of puppeteers was amazing. Jerry Nelson was such a dad to me too, and Richard Hunt tortured me in a nice way because, you know, Richard was amazing. His personality, you probably heard all about Richard, and he was kind and understanding and wild and funny, and I miss him so much. So everybody helped me. So I stayed, and it's been hard. I still have problems with my language, but everybody's been patient, thank God.
So what kind of tools did you create to be able to get over that, or
alcohol? No.
Oh, alcohol. Yeah.
Tequila.
Perfect.
Yeah, tequila. Perfect. So yeah, I imagine obviously you were memorizing your lines. But
yes.
But did you also have to memorize other people's lines as well? Because I would think even if you were able to mimic the sounds you heard to create your lines, the hard part would probably be knowing exactly when you come in. Because of not knowing the language, identifying your cue is probably much more difficult than even the translation, which is also difficult in itself.
Yeah, everything is more difficult. Yes. I memorize my lines. I cannot read them. Everybody puts their lines in the monitor. I think for the last 2 years, I've been able to, I'm always put them in the monitor.
The last 2 years, you said?
Yeah. I mean, wow. 2-3 years. I've been able to actually relax and look, and I finally, and all the puppeteers laugh because like, I read my line. I forgot my line and I read it actually. And they were like, oh, Carmen, please.
Wow.
It's like, because sometimes at the beginning, I didn't know what I was saying, so I had to sit down, and thank God in those days I had roommates that they were able to tell me, yeah, this means this and this means that. And because there's a lot of slang too, I had no idea what was happening. I still don't. Sometimes one of all the TV languages and abbreviations, I have no idea. But they know it's me, so they have to explain it over and over. But it was really difficult. Yes, I do memorize most of all the script for me to know what's happening. And I think, it's funny because with the years, I would love to go back to Mexico and do things in Spanish, right? Because that's my first language. And I would love to feel myself as free as as my colleagues from work. And I got the chance to go to Mexico and do some shows with Plaza Sésamo a few years ago. And it was such a relief to see that I was not an idiot, that actually I was able just to grab the script and put it in the monitor and just go for it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not stupid. It's just the language. Spanish came so easily for me and so good, and I felt so comfortable. And Rosita is funny. She's different in Spanish than in English. Anyway, I just noticed that.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask that. She would have to be pretty different, being in the native language. Wow, that's so.
Can you describe some of those differences?
Well, she's free, really. Yeah. She just she has, and I feel like when I think of Rosita, I always imagine her with a big family. I remember talking to Jim, and he said, you know what? I really want a bilingual character, but what I really want is somebody like you, that you're from there. You have the culture. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to act anything. It's just you. Mm. And that's how Rosita feels. She's just her. She has a big family. She probably is the one in the middle that needs attention, and all those things come really clearly in Spanish and English too, but not as clear.
Sure. Wow. That's incredible. When you were first working on her, and she kind of was this, newer character, how did you find? What kind of things did you do to develop her character in those early days? Was it really just based on what the scripts that you were given, or were you able to have sort of input with the writers and discussions on what you thought that she could be?
It was a combo. I tried to grab some of the things that, like I said, like we talked with Jim, and also we had a meeting, and actually the other night I saw Norman Stiles, that it was the head writer of Sesame Street when she came. And it was John Stone, Norman Stiles, Kevin Clash, Ed Christie from the workshop, and myself. And we had a big meeting. And it was great because I said, well, what do you want? You want a bird? You want an animal? I'm like, I want a monster. I know that there's monsters in the street already, but I really wanted a monster. I also, because of the language problem, we all talk about trying to keep her simple at the beginning. And as we were going, we added a lot of stuff, but it was like a team collaboration, because I remember saying that I wanted a beautiful color, a bright color for my culture, that I wanted big arms because my culture hugs a lot and kisses a lot. And, it's just like, and I wanted it to play the guitar. And I saw her doing a lot of, exercise, sports, because I did that too. So Ed Christie was like writing down everything and doing sketches. And so he was the one that came up with, this kind of bat with long arms. I also told them that I didn't want a skinny, monster. I wanted something that reflected me too. So I also told them that I wanted movements every time she moved. So they put all those feathers. And in like character-wise, I tried to think about all those families, all those great Latino families, right? That they're big and they're like all together all the time, and the grandmother lives at home too, and maybe, like I was telling you, she was not very well, like she, was used to people and very social and happy, musical. But also, on the other hand, irritable, because, with so many family, you have to kind of, say, hey, I'm here. so all that came in that meeting, and I forgot the question now. What was the question?
Oh, just yeah. No, and just developing her and in those early days, and how you found her character and all that. But that's really, I love that collaborative nature of working with the writers and the puppet builders and the puppeteers all at once.
I'm so glad to hear that you had that much input, even to choose what type of character it would be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly kind of surprised to hear that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really, actually, I love that. And I think that is, there's two different ways of getting the character. Like, I remember, like the way Baby Bear happened, it was David doing Baby Bear for a show when before was Baby Bear. And he just was so amazing doing this character that they wanted it to write more and more and more and more. And then they kind of developed the cat. I mean, it was already developed, as Baby Bear. And other times you have the opportunity, like me, to be completely involved with how she is going to look and what she, But also, I was not able to do anything of that without, Norman Stiles and Ed Christie and Kevin and John Stone. John Stone. Oh, I miss them so much. So many wonderful people that they're not around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Come on.
So, no, one thing I remember seeing is so when Rosita was first introduced, she had those big wings.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that, and how was it working with that when you first received that puppet?
I loved it. It was worse when I just arrived one day and I had no wings, and I thought, what happened?
Oh, wow.
Nobody told me. And then they, it's a long story, but no, I love the wings because we talk about it, and Ed saw her, like, every time Rosita opened her arms, she was so beautiful and big.
Yeah.
And
that's what I thought about, too, when you said about the hugs. I'm like, what a hug that would be. It's like a hug with a blanket around it, too. It's like, how comfy.
Exactly. Yeah. And she didn't let go. I remember doing the show that she could just keep holding Elmo, and and it looked beautiful. But and she used, when I play the guitar, it was great because most of the times when I play the guitar, I do the left hands, and my right hand kind of holds the guitar from the bottom and does this part. So now I have to really, my head really has to go low because all this area that it used to be covered with the beautiful wing now is exposed. So gives me a headache.
So you said you just got to the shoot one day and then the wings were just gone. Was there any explanation or anything? It's like, what? Like, is this broken? Should I use this? Right. Is this the right thing?
I know. I was shocked. I was really shocked. I don't even want to remember. Especially, I understand they're not our characters, right? Yeah. They're Sesame Workshop. So I guess the explanation that I got was that products didn't like the wings because it was hard to do stuff with her. And I'm thinking, but why don't have any products?
Yeah.
It's like, I will understand if I have products, but you don't, Rosita's not in a lot. So it's like, I think she was okay with the wins. Why did you take them?
That actually explanation does make sense to me, but you made a good point, though. That's not like she has that many things to begin with. Well, though they're missing out on a great opportunity. She would have made a great blanket.
I agree.
A wonderful huggy.
Snuggie. That's what it is. A snuggie. Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes I think, because I do think about, and look back 30 years, people keep asking me, is Rosita new? And I'm like, no, she's been in the show 28 years, 29 years. And then I think, but I've been so lucky because, through these years, I've been seeing so many characters come and go. And even if she's not, she's been in the background, I feel like she's been in the best, in the great years. I mean, she missed season 20 for a bit, but she's been there since season 22, and all these great adventures. And And, unfortunately, she's been kind of like, put back a little bit, but it's okay because, we're having so much fun. And one of the things that I'm very proud of her is that they've been using her a lot for the outreach projects on Sesame Workshop. And I've been working with the military families like for 10 years, and it's one of the most proudest things I've ever done. So, and I do it in Spanish, and I'm able to use my culture and my language with that. So we're fine. We're happy.
Oh.
Yeah. The outreach stuff is really some of my favorite things that Sesame Workshop is able to do. And I just think of not only what you've done with military families, but an image that sticks in my mind is when you all went to visit families after Hurricane Katrina. You and Pam and Kevin. It just must be so. Those characters are obviously very comforting when you watch them on the show on a normal day, but to have them show up in those really dire times of need and heartache must be really special for you guys. And just to be able to be there for kids when it's most important.
We honored really, because these kids, the characters are their friends. They see them every day. So sometimes we get kids telling the characters things that they don't tell their parents, and you have that incredible special moment with them, heartbreaking, and other times it's just we're so honored. Yeah, it's really hard. And sometimes, I feel like, oh my God, this is just amazing that we're able to feel so much love. I mean, sometimes I've been going with Leslie sometimes to hospitals to kids that they're going through chemo and the worst times of their lives, and they're feeling terrible, and they just they want us to be there holding their hands, Rosita, and obviously Abby is just throwing jokes and making them laugh, and it's so special. Yeah. And the military kids, they're just talking about, there was I went to Walter Reef, where the warriors are there and their families for months and months waiting for the dad or their mom to get better. So they actually stay there, and they have a preschool in the building. And I went to say hello to the kids. And because they see the videos and they know that Rosita's dad is in a wheelchair now, instead of me comforting them, Rosita comforting the kids, they were all hugging her, telling her that she was going to be okay. And they share these moments. They're like, oh God, thank you. It's really humbling. Oh, I'm more lucky. I'm more blessed than the kids, really. It's just they give me so much love.
That's really beautiful.
It is amazing.
One of the other characters who you do for Sesame Street, which must be really special because I think she kind of exclusively speaks in Spanish, is Ovejita.
Ovejita.
Thank you. Can you talk about developing that character? Because that had to be a pretty fun thing. I mean, just this beautiful little purple lamb going all over the place. It had to be a really fun thing. She was just such a crazy character.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I love Ovejita. Ovejita was actually Joey Mascherino, create that segment, The Word on the Street. Murray was performed by Joey Mascherino. And one day he told me, hey, Carmen, I need, you're going to do this sheepy. How do you want to call her? Do you want to call her like oveja? How do you say oveja in sheep in Spanish? Oveja. Okay. Well, how do you want to call her? Well, ovejita. Okay. All right. Okay. So they basically, I saw Ovejita the first day of shooting.
Oh, wow.
And there was not a lot of scripts, it was just go in the go. And between Matt, Joey, and myself, we did all that just having fun. And I think that's the secret, is just have fun. And I had a nice, team there with Joey and Matt, and we all She was crazy. I love that. I love to torture Murray. You know, Ovejita was all over the place, and I love that she was so physical and popping here and popping there, and it was such a freedom. And plus, so simple. I love simplicity. You know, I love to do that kind of. It was just one camera and us, so a lot of fun. It was amazing experience. Exhausting because location is. It's hard because you're laying down in the cement in New York City, not very clean.
No.
Ew.
Yeah.
But it
Wow.
Yeah, I think I have an image of her. You took her ice skating or something at one point. You guys went to a figure skating class or something. It's really silly images. I love it.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I had another question about Rosita, the design of her. So when the wings disappeared, that was kind of an obvious change to people who would have noticed. Is there any like more subtle changes that the character have had that maybe the audience wouldn't have noticed? Maybe even on the inside or outside? Any other changes for anything that you might notice?
Yeah. No changes with Rosita, just the wings. Actually, she's still the same inside. They have to build another 2 new ones because of the old one got really. It's funny the first. No, you know what? Now that I'm thinking, yes, there's big changes. The first one was smaller. The second time that they built a new Rosita, for a reason, she was very fluffy, and she got bigger suddenly. If you see the old episodes, she was very, very small, and now she's just like all nice and fluffy.
Good. Huh.
But that's about it. The inside is the same. She's really comfortable. It's like a Rolls Royce and puppets.
Yeah.
yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, because I remember the first time I went to the Sesame Street workshop, I couldn't believe how long they use these characters. Obviously, they keep them up and keep them refreshed and stuff. But for some reason, I would have imagined that every couple of years they'd kind of make a new one, refreshing it. And because I remember when I went there, they took out an old count. And I asked them, I said, "Oh, when was this one made?" And they look at the tag. It was like it was like it was like literally it was like 1988. It was before I was born.
Yeah.
It was like the mid 80s.
Like 85.
I was I was 85 or something. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this puppet is older than me. They're still using it. Like that's remarkable."
Wait a minute, you were born after 85?
1988.
Oh my god.
1990.
Oh my god, you guys are so cute.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't let the gray hair fool you.
Yeah.
I love that. No, I'm a baby from the 60s,
Yeah.
Yes, they're actually you think that they take care of them. They do take care of them. Sometimes you get, I just the other day we were doing something and I don't remember if it was a cow, a horse, and we call when they're falling apart inside, they're all toasty. It's like toast comes out. This puppet was like melting in our hands. It was just like, bye-bye.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're gone.
Yeah.
It's just like, ew, everything is like full of toast everywhere. That is kind of sad because they're great puppets. The people in the workshop are amazing, truly amazing. Michelle and Stacy and Jason were with us in this live Lincoln Center, and we will not be able to do it without them because we have double everything. Sometimes even triple or quadruple puppets. But there was a part of people in your neighborhood that Leslie was doing my right hand, and Abby needed it to come in the same song, so we have to go out the stage. And Michelle was with 2 puppets there. We're all sweaty, so when you're sweaty and you need to put a puppet or take it out, it's not a good combo.
No.
So she needed it to come out of my right hand, put Abby. I needed it to grab Rosita, put it out because I needed a Rosita that with stuffed hands. and in less than seconds, and go out again. And Michelle and, those people, they're not just extremely talented, but they help us in everything. So hooray for the workshop there.
Wow.
Yeah, that team is phenomenal. They have the
Is
benefit
there?
of have the benefit of knowing a couple of them, and I'm just, sorry. I'm thinking about our good friend who I know you know, Jake Bizzell, performed the Muppet Turkey a couple years ago for a Macy's thing when the Muppets did the Macy's parade, and I think he texted me a picture of his hand coming out of that turkey, and it was just covered in that toast. Another puppet that's older than any of us.
That's right. Yeah, especially older than Jake.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's really funny.
He's definitely, that turkey is it's old.
Something I was just thinking of, because we've talked with Pam and with Marty about how Telly and Grangetta respectively, like they really like to right hand for each other because it kind of keeps that character consistent. Telly in particular, Marty was like, Pam is such a part of that character with him. Do you have a preference ever with Rosita on someone who is kind of your go-to right-hander?
Well, yeah, I can't tell you.
Okay.
No, of course. No, through the years, unfortunately, I've not been able to have one. And particularly, I was the one that I always had different people. But, I mean, in the old days, I always remember being very happy having Matt Vogel with me. He was amazing. But I think who I really love is John Kennedy. Because John Kennedy, he plays the guitar too, and he knows my rhythms. Rosita moves a lot, but she's specific too, so he knows that. Yeah. But you know what? Basically, everybody is really good. It's like with some people, like John Kennedy, I don't have to tell him what to do. And I don't have to worry. I mean, sometimes of course, because I went through it, you have new people. And you have to do the Franco style of holding the hand all the time and say, no, you stay there. Right. But I understand because we all went through, like I said, you're so petrified right-handing for these people that you just like stay like this and you don't move. But you're like, no, move, we don't stay like this. Mm-hmm. John Kennedy is the best of the best of the best.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure him being, because I know he's a bit of an athlete and especially loves playing basketball, so I imagine him having that athlete's mind as well as the guitarist.
And a dancer. Don't forget the dancer.
Okay, I didn't know about that, but that makes sense.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's a dancer. He's great. Sometimes he gives us some choreography. He's really good. John Kennedy is very talented.
Yeah, for sure. Love that. Well, so I know we've obviously been talking a lot about Sesame Street, but that's not the only puppet project that you've worked on. Was the Puzzle Place one of the first things that you did in America after Sesame Street or during Sesame Street?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And that was, for me, I never thought, I mean, can you imagine? I had like probably 3-4 years here working on Sesame Street when, they invited me to do a pilot for this new show. And I'm like, first of all, I just didn't know if I was able to because I was hired by Jim Henson Company. And when you're not from this country, they give you a green card. But they told me, no, yeah, you can work if you want to. So I did the pilot and it was so much fun, but I was petrified. Again, my English was terrible. And I thought, I just came to do Sesame Street. I never imagined to expand, right? So when Puzzle Place came, I thought, okay, well, let's see what I do. And the pilot was a lot of fun. It was a nice group. The pilot was Camille Benora and Alan Truman, Kevin Clash. I think it was Julianne. Can't pronounce her name. I mean, her last name. You know Julianne? She's in the Muppets.
I don't know how to pronounce her last name either, but Biosher or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, it was a good time. And I thought, okay, well, if it goes in series, let's see what happens because I'm on Sesame Street. but it worked out really well. I mean, first of all, Kiki, my character, was supposed to be a girl from New Mexico, with Mexican backgrounds. She looked really cute. I don't know if you remember her. You guys are so young. You probably didn't grow up with Puzzle Play.
I did. I absolutely did. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, you remember her, like ponytails, dark hair. She was adorable. And I love the concept of the show, kids, typical American kids from all over, but, actually that show will be great right now with all the backgrounds, what it makes America great. So, it was a great experience. But I have to say, when we did the series, it changed from the pilot, the group of puppeteers, Camille was busy with Henson, doing things. And so we ended up being Noel McNeil, Jim Martin, Peter Lenz. The first season was Alison Mork, Alice Deneen, and myself. So as soon as we finished the season of Sesame Street, we flew we finished on Friday, and that Saturday we flew to LA and we started the season of Puzzle Place on the Monday.
Wow.
And it was a lot of work, but it was so much fun because we were all kind of new. And, Peter and Alice and Allison and Noel, and we were all experimenting and having fun. And we made a nice group of friends there. Family that we were like watching for each other because it was a big, big show. We have to sing a lot. We were physically exhausted, but it was a great process. Great. I learned so much from all of them. It was great. And we did 3 seasons of it. I couldn't believe it. I love that show. And I have to say that it was a big thing. It helped me a lot to get confident for Sesame Street. It was like a very good tool.
Right.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, I'm sure being able to go in the same way as you said when you went to Plaza Sesamo, you kind of realize how much you know from from Sesame Street, and you're able to take that experience and it solidifies things. I'm sure a little bit when you go back. That's really great. When you were doing that show, because you weren't working with the Sesame Street crew, those directors and the camera operators and stuff, was it is doing a different show like that sometimes difficult because you don't have everybody on the same page necessarily? Like, does it end up being almost like going back when on those first projects in Mexico of like, oh, you're pulling your hair out because it's suddenly you versus everyone else again?
Yeah, you got it right. It was we have to train a little bit, everybody, from the producers too, because they were great, but they're coming from Reading Rainbow, I think, they were the producers, and they couldn't, it was hard. The cameras, the guys, the cameramen were amazing, they're very experienced, but they were, in LA, they're just used to like live audience and, friends and
doing puppetry filming puppetry is a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you have to put the camera down and tilt up and do all those things that little by little they realize we were not kidding. And, it's like they have to relearn how to do things. And it was like a learning process for everybody. And we, Jim Martin was really, really great because he was able to help all of us. I think he was the one with more experience in that matter. And Jim Martin kind of trained everybody, even the director. And so we did great things. I remember, being so proud at the end of the day, thinking, wow, we did that musical number and actually it looks really fun. It looked really good. So yeah, I learned a lot of stuff thanks of that, because when you have to explain things to somebody else. And as a team, we came up with great stuff. So yeah, it was good, but it was really difficult. The first season was really hard. The producers had tried to hire the same crew for the second and third season. So we all knew everything, they all already knew. So it was really good.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
And then, so I know you worked on Johnny and the Sprites. Were there other puppet projects that you got to work on, or were there other things that you did? Because I know, Sesame throughout the 90s and into the 2000s, I know you stopped making less episodes as time went on. So you had to fill your plate with some other projects and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? I did Between the Lions and Bear in the Big Book, all those shows. I was able to be part of them, and let's see. No, I think that was it. You know what? In 2000, I became a mom. I had a baby boy, and I didn't mind that. That I was because I was able to stay home and be a mom too. And, my priority changed to my son. So no, I kind of took it easy, and Johnny and the Sprites came, and I think Alex, my son, was 4 years old when Johnny came, and it was great. But as you know, it's a lot of work, and for days, for months I was not here at home, and I had a little one at home. So it was kind of hard, but I was able to manage, doing both. Johnny and the Sprites was, what an experience. First of all, I loved Johnny because I know him since he was, like Jake, since they were kids. And I'm so proud of both of them, for what they do now. So to be part of a show that Johnny created and was producing, and he was him there. It was such an incredible thing. And I love Lily. She was completely different of other characters, She was all glam, and I was able to use a lot of my voice to sing, and I was a little petrified because of all the incredible music. I didn't want to ruin it. But actually we didn't, and we were able to sing those amazing songs from amazing composers, and we did great shows too, that we had a lot of fun, and it was great to work in a team that, they knew what we're doing. We had one camera in that show.
Oh my goodness.
One camera and a jib. It was amazing. It was really good. It was so much fun.
Holy cow.
And I got to work for the first time there with, because I knew Tim Lagasse forever, but I never got to work with him. So I worked with Tim for the first time, with Heather Ash for the first time, and Leslie Carrara for the first time. So it was, for me, it was a great experience. It took me a while to be able to sleep, because everybody was so excited in the set. And I used to laugh a lot with Tim and Leslie. The energy that Leslie brings is just amazing. But I used to go home and my head was and completely contrary with the puppeteers and Sesame Street or the Muppets, You're just so cool and calm, and, so, but I loved it, I got used to that incredible energy.
Plus you have Jim Krupa around yelling at everybody.
I have to tell you about Jim Krupa, because when Kermit Love came to Mexico, one of the things that, and I was still in Mexico, he did is listen, you're a good puppeteer, puppeteers. I'm going to produce this special with Placido Domingo and Mireille Mathieu, that it was a French singer. And Jim Krupa, one of my puppeteers, and Matthew Stoddard, they're going to go to Mexico, and I need you to assist them, and, and hire some other Mexican puppeteers, and you guys can work in the special and help me. And I did. And so I assist. I think Jim Krupa was my introduction to geniuses, but he was in my country. So I was the host there. I was translating for him as much as I was able to. And he did this character. We have a composer in Mexico that is very famous. His name is Cri. And so they did, I'm looking that way because I have the album there. So we spent 2 or 3 weeks with Placido Domingo doing this special, and Jim was wonderful, and I have great memories of him there in my country.
Yeah,
I torture him. I made him eat horrible things.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
Do you have we're kind of having never met him before, we're really interested in Kermit Love, and you've obviously had some really great experiences with him. Do you have a good Kermit Love story? Because we've just heard some really wild things about him, and we'd love if you have any cool memories of him.
Oh gosh, well I do. I don't know if it's a funny one, but I do have. I have so many. He was wonderful. When he went to Mexico to audition puppeteers for Plaza Sesame, the guy that it was driving him around Mexico was one of my friends, and he called me one of the days and he said, "Listen, Kermit wants to have dinner. He doesn't want to go to a restaurant or anything. He would love to meet a Mexican family." And everybody knew that my mom was such a good cook. And in Mexico, you live with your parents before you just leave your home when you get married. But so you live with your parents all the time. And he said, "I know your mom always has good food. Do you think that he can come and have dinner tonight with you guys?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bring him over." And so Kermit came to my house to have dinner. And, it was not rare in my house that we always had people. So Kermit came and, had dinner, and he asked for like seconds and thirds. And he was really impressed to see my brother arrive from work. I mean, a grown-up man with a beard, and say hello to my dad, kiss my dad, kiss my mom, kiss me, say hello to Kermit. And he's like, "What is this? I mean, this never happens. You're a grown man. What are you doing here?" Yeah. He's like, "Well, we're here until we get married." Yeah. So my experience with him, my memory is that I'm him in my house, in my home. And I think it was so cute because he talked to my dad, seeing that connection, that family connection. He told my dad, "If Carmen wants to come to New York, don't worry. I'll make sure that she's safe and she's okay when she comes to New York." And he always was like really sweet with me because he met my parents and he knew how, those connections. But another great memory that I have with him is one day here in New York, I remember going to Great Jones where he had his studio. And it was great. This is the 80s, guys, like before you were born. And looking out of the window from his studio, you can see the studio of Andy Warhol was across the street. And Andy was all the time over there. And they were, one day I just arrived at the studio and he said, "What are you doing tonight? Because I have a party to go." And I'm like, "Okay." They're like, "Do you want to come?" "Sure." "Okay, so it's like a masquerade party. So I have something for you." So he had like a beautiful mask. And I was wearing black anyway, so he's like, "You're fine." I'm like, "But where are we going?" "We're going to Jim Henson is throwing this party, and you're gonna be my guest." So he took me to the Waldorf Astoria, to the masquerade that Jim Henson was throwing a big party, and it was just amazing. It blew my brains out because everybody was there. Half of them I had no idea who they were because, but I did recognize like Andy Warhol, all these people were there, and Kermit was just, introducing me as, puppeteer from Mexico. And I remember that with it was so wonderful of him to do that for me and to take me to this place that I never imagined that I was going to be in my life. Really.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, yeah. So when the set, well, there's so many. Kermit was just, I do, he was really particular. He always, because he was in the studio too, right? And he was a character, and he used to take care of Big Bird and Snuffy. And he always had like performing tips, and he used to, if he didn't like something, he used to tell you really clearly.
Yes.
We know what that means.
Yes. Okay.
See, I also remember, I'm sorry, there's another one that I was so embarrassed, but you will appreciate that. He also did costumes for the New York Ballet, and he did all this for the Nutcracker. He did all these mouses and things. This is in the 80s too. So he invited me, and I was so sick, and I had like the worst cough ever. So the whole Nutcracker, I cough I cough like crazy. So he got tired of me coughing, and he took me out, and we were like backstage hiding because I was not in the audience anymore coughing. But we were looking at all those dancers coming in and out. And then he told me, oh, this was a good idea because they were all changing there. Anyway, never mind. So it was great.
Oh
I'm glad I was coughing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's great. One other thing before we start to wrap up, just because there's been a lot of hype around this 50th anniversary special that you guys did. It looked like such a great experience. Could you talk a little bit about just filming that? I mean, you had Whoopi Goldberg and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. They just announced that you had yeah, and Patti LaBelle, and it looked like Kermit the Frog was there too, which is just really special to have be able to have that character back. Can you just talk about doing that? And this episode will be out after that airs, but just to talk about filming that, it'd be really
Sure.
cool.
It was really a big party. Nora Jones was there too. That she did a few Muppet inserts in the past with us, and it was great. It was great to have the 2 days that we had everybody. You'll see, but there's moments that there's a lot of us in singing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all the cast too. I mean, Sonia Manzano was there, and everybody else, since they were little to grown up, a lot of them that were there too. And it was really touching to be part of it. Let's see. I don't remember. It's really, and I'm not joking. It's a blur. Sometimes we do all the PR for the seasons. It's like, what was the season about? They were like, it was about, learning by making mistakes. Oh, that was season 50. But what I do remember of the special was that seeing Kermit back into the set, that was great. That was amazing. And seeing Matt too doing that, it was really special. But I think it was more special for me seeing him doing Kermit. And I remember Heather Hansen and Cheryl Hansen, they came to say hello that day without knowing that Kermit was going to be there. So it was super special because I was holding hands with Cheryl through the song, and we were bowling.
Wow.
So yeah, it was I do believe that Jim Henson in spirit was there, because even to have the girls there, not knowing that this moment was going to happen, was pretty cool. Was pretty cool. So that's what I remember.
Great. Well, we can't wait to see it because it sounds really, really touching. And that's a great story that they were able to be there for that.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, and out of the blue, it was do you say that? Out of the blue?
Out of the blue.
Yeah. I
gotta say.
And even with the script taped right to your computer screen. Great. Well, as we start to wrap up, we love to ask people about a puppeteer memory that they have of something where you were on set or in rehearsal where something just didn't go right, that you wanted to pull your hair out at the moment, but you could look back on it and have a good laugh.
Oh God!
A funny, crazy story where something something went wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have.
No, I know, but there's so many in my side because sometimes I say things that. Well, I can tell you something. Right at the beginning of my first seasons, I couldn't pronounce some words, and I had in a lot of my lines I have the word focus. But it didn't come as focus. It used to come like this. Excuse my English. But that's what I remember. So Marty Robinson used to torture me because obviously the word couldn't come out correctly. And they were trying to help me pronounce it right. But it took me a while to pronounce it correctly, but the way that they were saying, no. Okay, no, you cannot, it's not that word that you're saying, it's focus. Okay, say focus in the peanuts. And I'm like, okay, let me try. Excuse me, but this is with my accent. I was, okay, I will say the line, focus in the peanuts. Is that correct? And it took me years to be able to say focus correctly. And every time the word focus came in the scripts, everybody laughed before I was able to say it.
Did they write it in more because of this? I would imagine.
I think they did.
How many times can we get this word in here? The word of the day is focus with Rosita.
That's the word on the street.
Okay. And that's the word on the street, exactly. So it was,
Oh my God.
There's some words that they just don't come out right. Sure. An astronaut or that kind of words, they never,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
That is crazy. Oh my gosh.
I know.
Yeah.
That's a good story. I don't even know what to say.
No.
Well, imagine the worst one. That's the one that I can tell you.
Sure.
But there's some words that I cannot tell you.
Well, let me ask you this. At what point did you realize that what was happening? Because if you're just, because you're not understanding it, right?
At the beginning, I think, I am so funny. Everybody's laughing. Right? It's like, I got it. I am hilarious.
Right.
But then I thought, no, I think I'm saying something wrong.
Oh, did anyone tell you? Did anyone pull you aside like, just so you know, this is what's happening?
Exactly. No, Marty didn't want me to know that I was saying it wrong. Oh. And Pam, I think Pam felt sorry for me and told me. The boys love that, It's like,
gosh.
Oh God.
That's too funny. Wow.
You know, that made me think of just one other thing. Was having either Sonia Manzano around, or I don't know if there were any other bilingual folks on the set. Was that sort of a helpful thing to have someone to kind of guide you through?
Yeah, I mean, Emilio Delgado,
sure,
Sonia. We have one of the writers, Luis Santeiro, is Cuban. Yeah, yes. I mean, of course, just to know that when they were there, it was just incredible. And we wanted to use more Spanish in the show if we could. But yeah, it was great. But they had fun too with me. Oh, you know what? I have a very interesting story with Sonia Manzano.
Oh, yeah. We'd love to hear it.
Well, and this is going back to the 80s, and it's really quick.
Sure. And just in case anybody is listening who doesn't know, Sonia was not only a writer on the show, but also, of course, played Maria. So anyway, sorry. Just
yeah, it's a great writer and wonderful Maria. We love her. So I met Kermit Love before I went to New York to study or to observe the people. Nobody knew me, so I met Kermit, and we have a few months before I came to New York. in those months, I went to help a friend of mine. She opened a store in Cozumel. I don't know if you guys, Cozumel is in the southeast of Mexico around Cancun, but it's a beautiful place. So she opened a store, and I was a little confused. My dad just died of cancer, and I just wanted it to clean up my head. And I went to the beautiful Caribbean Ocean and scuba dive. I'm a scuba diver, so I used to scuba dive every day, and I help her with her store. So, and one evening I'm in the store, and I saw Sonia Manzano walking in with her husband. I mean, I know her because I used to watch Sesame Street and some videos that I have, but she didn't know who I was. So she walked into the store, and right away I'm like, oh my God, you're Sonia Manzano. And she's like, yes, I am. And so she looked around, and I said, you know what? I met Kermit Love, and I hope that one day I can go and, and be part of Sesame Street or be there just to meet you guys and see how you guys work. And I remember clearly that she said, yes, sure. Yeah, I'll see you. But she told me, now knowing her, she told me that when I said that to her, she said, get in line, girl. Because she didn't say that to me. So when I went when they hired me and I started working with her, she was like, I can't believe that you're here.
Yeah.
I saw you in Cozumel in a store, and now you're here. And I really thought when you said that, get in line, and look at you, you're here. So we always had a great relationship.
Because I'm sure she got asked questions like that all the time.
Oh yeah.
So it was probably like the rare winning lottery, like once in a million, that you actually were able to get there. That's amazing.
Wow, yeah.
Holy
well,
cow.
For me, it's mind blowing too.
Yeah.
I never thought that I would leave my country and be here. Seriously, I never thought.
Wow.
Dream come true.
That's amazing. Wow, yeah. Well, this was amazing. Is there any way that people can get in contact with you? Any social media handles or anything where people can follow your work?
Well, I'm old, so I don't have any. I don't have any. But I mean, I'm in Instagram.
Oh, you are?
I have
okay,
a
great.
page, but I apologize for that, everybody. But I really, I'm 58, and for God bless. I know how to use my phone kind of.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, certainly there's plenty of other friends who work on Sesame who can kind of follow you by proxy. So
that's right.
You know what? And they can contact you, Cameron.
Yeah, sure. I'll be the middleman.
You know where I am.
We'll put the Puppeteers podcast email, and we'll forward all the fan mail.
Yeah, perfect. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. You know what? Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
And I've been watching. I saw Steve Whitmire the other day, and I love to watch you guys. So thank you for what you do. It's really well appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much
we
for
love
coming
doing
on.
it. And
Yeah,
it was great to talk to you. It's funny. I was going through my phone, and I realized that I think you and I have done about 50 emails back and forth between the two of us.
Yeah, I know.
Trying to make it work. So we were so fortunate, and we really appreciate your time, because I know it's especially this time of year, and in this year it's got to be incredibly busy. So we appreciate you making time for us.
And I appreciate your time, and I apologize that it took a year.
No, it's okay. This was perfect.
We've been busy.
Yeah.
Really, seriously. I was in New Zealand last year. I don't know what happened in a year, but it's been wonderful, crazy. Yeah. So I apologize for that, and I'm glad that it worked out.
Wonderful. Well, Carmen, thank you so much for joining us on Puppeteers, and we'll hope to maybe do this again in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.